Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today on Tech Driven, we're going to be talking about Gskil's new high-speed memory specifically designed for Ryzen 5000 and its super low latency, as well as I have pictures of the new and upcoming RTX 3060 Ti. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that's going to play out at your mid-tier level. So we'll talk about that in a minute. And to round things off, there is a new world record already for the AMD 5950X overclock. It's insane. Stick around. So let's talk RAM. I know memory's not the most exciting thing in the world, and the old adage was, toss more memory in your computer, it'll make it faster. That was maybe the case 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when computers had a gig of RAM, 512 megs of RAM, and you'd step it up to a gig or 2 gigs of memory, and it's like, holy crap, wow, what a difference. I can have Internet Explorer up and iTunes, and it won't chug. Yeah, or Winamp. And burn a CD. Oh, God. Anyways, but nowadays, most computers come with about 16 gigs of RAM. That's kind of now, right now, the norm. You can still get away with 8 gigs of RAM. When I first started the current job I have, they gave me a laptop with 8 gigs of RAM. And as soon as I started opening a couple Chrome tabs and setting up my laptop exactly what I wanted, I was like, this is useless. I kept running out of RAM. Like just having Outlook open in an Excel sheet, it just fell on its face. So now I have a laptop that has 16 gigs of RAM and it's much nicer. And for a gaming computer, you really don't need more than 16 gigs of RAM. Now, if you're doing any production workloads, I would say, start looking at a 32 gig kit. And if you're start hitting near your RAM ceiling, maybe it's time to upgrade to something larger. So then looking at, going to 64. And that's where it gets really expensive. But that's usually memory capacity. But in the terms when it comes to Ryzen CPUs, and I've seen this firsthand, especially for myself, I went from a 16 gig kit to a 32 gig kit just as I started producing this show. Main reason why, as soon as I started editing videos and then having Chrome up with all the tabs and then doing everything and putting in all the images and the music, I started hitting that 16 gig RAM ceiling fast. So I was like, okay, cool. Okay, so I need to get some memory. And I already had a Gskill kit that was designed for Ryzen 2000. Now, I have a Ryzen 3000 3800X. But it was a 3600 megahertz kit, so it's still fine. It gave me that happy ratio. But the timings weren't the best. They were CL18, so they were okay, but not great. Now, I purchased the NEO kit because I've always wanted the NEO kit, and I was always curious about it. And the NEO kit has tighter timings. So the NEO kit has CL16 timings, the one that I bought. And now, Gskill has announced even tighter timings. But even just switching to tighter timings will gain you more performance. And I've actually measured that more performance. In 3D Mark bench scores, I gained my personal best. And even in Cinebench R20, I gained a new personal best just by changing out the memory to tighter timing memory of the same speed. And I've seen the reverse where having tight timing memory but a little bit slower and then going to a faster memory with looser timing, it actually netted out 0. So it was like, okay, I got low profile memory, Corsair Vengeance, and it was good, but it wasn't flashy. Added some Corsair Vengeance RGB memory that was faster but with not as great timing. And then ran some benchmarks back to back just out of curiosity, and it was like, eh. So, but let's move on to Gskill. So Gskill this week announced new memory, updated their NEO line in three different speeds with also different timings. So the tightest timing is a CL14, and they come in 2 different speeds, a 3600 and 3800 kit. The 3600 has the tightest timings of them all, being a 14, 15, 15, 35, at 1.45 volts. Now that comes in only 16 gig sticks. You can get it in 2 or 4 sticks. If you go to 3800 megahertz, the CL14 kit again only comes in 16 gig sticks. It's at 1.5 volts, so it runs a little bit higher voltage, and the timings are very close as well. But it's 14, 16, 16, 36. And then if you want 8 gig sticks, or if you want a 32 gig stick, then you're going to have to step up to CL16, similar to what I have, or a CL18 kit. And the CL18 kit you can only get for the 32 gig DIMMs. So if you want a 64 gig kit with 2 32 gig sticks, then your only option is a CL18 kit. So that's still pretty good because that's 3800 megahertz, fairly fast, high density memory, and the timing's not the worst, but it's not the best. Really the most notable ones are the CL14 and the CL16 kits, but there's also 4000 megahertz, which comes in a CL16 kit, which is 8 gig DIMMs and 16 gig DIMMs, and as well as there's a CL18 kit, which comes in 16 gig DIMMs as well, but you can also get a 64 gig kit that's 4000 megahertz, which is insane, but again, CL18. So these are supposed to be coming out this month, as it's now November. And also Gskill showed off some screenshots validating the memory on an MSI Godlike motherboard and an Asus Crosshair Dark Hero motherboard. So that's really nice to see. And with two different Zen CPUs, the 5600X, which it really right now is the kind of, if all you want to do is gaming, that's the chip to buy. As well as a 5800X, which would be the direct replacement to my 3600X. And that's kind of the weird middle brother of the family. And yeah, we'll get into that in a bit. But it's good to see that Gskill is really trying to stay on top of the RAM game, and they've been doing a great job, I'd say, in the last couple of years, because for the longest time, I would always buy Corsair memory, and Corsair still to this day makes fantastic high-speed memory, but man, Gskill's been killing it. So AMD's had a killer week this week with the release and the launch of the Ryzen 5000 series CPUs, so the 5950X, the 5900X, the 5800X, and the 5600X. With the 4 of these CPUs hitting the market and literally slaughtering, murdering Intel. So let's all hail to the new king. Duke?
Hail to the king, baby.
Or we can add in some Quake sounds of, you know,
Monster kill.
I think that sounds appropriate. But anyways, besides some fun antics with that, you know, it definitely did not take long for the overclockers to get their hands on these CPUs. And I'm not just talking about, you know, people who, you know, dial a little bit of things up. We're talking serious overclockers, professional overclockers that got the chips right away, slammed some LN2 blocks on it, and saw how far they could push them. So Gigabyte is basically right now, and High Cookie, I should say, is claiming the fastest, highest clocked 5950X this week with a crazy 87% overclock of 6362.16 megahertz, so 6.3 gigahertz, which is insane. But we should really add, it's that 6.362 makes the biggest difference, because that puts Gigabyte and High Cookie over MSI, which is saying something, right? So MSI claimed a 6.35 gigahertz overclock. They didn't post a Cinebench score like Gigabyte did, so that validates that Gigabyte did it at all cores, which is one thing. And they posted an insane R20 score of 15,517 points. So that's nuts. And all this was done on a motherboard that's been out for a while, the X570 Master. So you might be scratching your head going, wait, doesn't Gigabyte have a motherboard that's over the Master? Yeah, they do. And it's like crazy overpriced, gargantuan, fanless. But it just goes to show that that motherboard is A, a waste of money, and B, not needed for extreme overclocking. It just goes to show that the Master motherboard is really all you need. And I think it's a fantastic board. I almost bought one, but I went with an Asus Crosshair 7 because I got it for half the price because it was on clearance. So that's always nice. But also MSI pulled their overclock with the MSI Godlike motherboard, which is also a very well-known motherboard. And it's been on the market for a while, and it's proven itself as a solid board. And I have great experience with MSI boards. With my old Sandy Bridge system, it overclocked like a beast. It had stable BIOS. The only thing that was buggy was the fan profiling software in Windows was not the best. But once you got used to its quirks, it was fine. So definitely they make a solid motherboard, and they've been doing it for a while. So rounding up third place after MSI and after Gigabyte is a Swedish overclocker that used an Asus Crosshair Dark Hero motherboard. So the new Asus motherboard that they just released for Ryzen 5000. Now, this motherboard's backwards compatible with the previous Ryzen chips, but just putting it out there that they also use liquid nitrogen. Now, granted, with this setup, they didn't get as high as overclock as the other two. They only got, and I'm just saying, only, oh my God, only 6.102 gigahertz, or megahertz, I should say. So that's still insane. That's still a 79.5% overclock, which is nuts. So right now, these are the only ones posted at hardwarebot.org. So I'm looking forward to seeing if there's going to be more crazy overclocks. And, I wouldn't doubt in short time there's going to be guys putting these on LN2 pots with whatever's going to be the current fastest GPU. Because, okay, currently 3090 is the fastest GPU. But maybe in a short time, who knows if the 3900 XT is going to beat it. So really curious on how this is all going to unfold because, for the longest time with, LN2 overclocking and really pushing, crazy Cinebench scores or crazy 3D Mark scores or whatever crazy benchmark we're running nowadays, you've always seen it dominated by Intel and dominated by Nvidia. This could be the first time in a long time we see this being dominated by a pure 100% AMD system, which is kind of crazy to think. That hasn't happened since the mid-2000s. So let's talk PCI Express. PCI Express has been around for a long time, and the current standard we're on has been around since basically 2010, which is PCI Express 3.0. And now I know 3.0 is kind of on its way out, but it's still very much a highly adopted, highly used by the masses versus 4.0. 4.0, it's currently only on 2 generations of video cards. It's soon to be 3 with the launch of the AMD RX 6000 series of cards, as well as with the RTX 3000 series of cards and the RX 5700 series of video cards and the other lower ones to that are slower. So it's only on a couple families of video cards, but also PCI Express is highly used in storage. So that's where you see a big difference. With graphics cards going from PCI Express 3.0 to 4.0, you don't see a big jump because it doesn't use all the bandwidth. But in storage is where you see the huge jump because storage literally will just go, ooh, bigger highway, I'm just going to use all of it. And that's just the benefit of having good controllers and great memory. So if you have a high-end SSD that's NVMe, it will take advantage of that. So anything from Corsair or Samsung will take advantage of that. As well as just some other brands, but those are the first ones that come to mind. So they have PCI Express 4.0 SSDs now, and there's also PCI Express 4.0 video cards. Well, PCI Express 6.0 is slated to be done and ready to go 2021, which is kind of insane because it's like, wait, we're just adopting PCI Express 4, and you're saying they're already working on 6? Yeah, and 6.0 is to be 4 times faster than 4.0. Or, yeah, 4 times faster than 4.0. And 8 times faster than 3.0, which is insane. And 5.0 is done and it's ready to go. And I wouldn't doubt motherboard manufacturers, Intel, AMD are already working on adopting 5.0 because there's no way they'll just go from 4 and then just go straight to 6 because it takes them probably time to validate and test and make sure everything works 100%. For that, but it's twice as fast as 5.0. So every year they are doubling the performance. And basically, what does that mean? So that highway of 5.0 is 32 gigatransfers per second. That's a fairly large highway, that being, faster than 4.0 by a good margin. And it's not as fast as 6.0. 6.0 is supposed to be 64 gigatransfers per second. So it's twice as fast. So that's going to be really interesting to see. Let's say in a couple years' time when that comes out. But again, everything's going to be that much faster when that comes out. So it's going to be a big difference. So it looks like I can't go a week without talking about new upcoming video cards or video cards that just launched and tons of excitement and buzz around that. But the RTX 30 series or 3000 series is not done just yet. So Nvidia showed the high end, the mid to high end, and the start of the mid range. And the reason why I say that is because the 3090 is the true high end of the Ampere line. There might be some more room left in the chip, but I don't think there's much more left in it. If they had to go that big with that crazy amount of power draw to push Ampere that far, I don't know how much more is left in it. But maybe there might be a Titan coming eventually. Or maybe a 3090 Ti if AMD really ruffles their boots enough and they have to pull all the stops out. But that would be interesting to see. But I think the real sweet spot with the 3000 series is 3080 for sure, because 3090 is just unobtainium with the price, and for the performance gain, not worth it. And it's like the old Titan beats it in a lot of the performance workloads. So when they say Titan performance, it just doesn't make sense at all. It's a GeForce card. It's not a Titan. It's a consumer card. But let's talk about the mid-range where a lot of people are going to buy at. The RTX 3060 Ti is what a lot of people are probably looking forward to and craving for some information, because 3070 might still be at their price range, being $500 US. 3080 being considerably more than that, definitely out of their price range. And, you know, when I used to build computers for friends and family members, a lot of people, their sweet spot was $1,000 Canadian. You know, being US, let's just say knock 30% off that for conversion, and let's say a $700 to $800 PC, give or take. But that usually is the sweet spot. About $1,000 here for a PC usually got you a good mid-tier system that can play all the games at 1080p, no problem. And nowadays that seems to be harder and harder to do, with, you know, CPUs getting more and more expensive, motherboards being crazy expensive. Like this ROG Strix B550F, it's normally like $250 plus Canadian. Now I found this for like $220-ish Canadian, which was a good deal, and I haven't seen a price like it since. So, but it's definitely getting harder to build a good budget system, and that's where people are starting to turn to the used market. But even then, used prices are kind of all over the place too. So hopefully the RTX 3060 Ti will end up being a solid card. Now let's talk about this card specifically. So it's a Gigabyte card, the Eagle version, or Eagle OC, we should call it. And it features a single 8-pin power, so 150 watts supplied via PCI Express power, straight from your power supply, and another 75 watts via the PCI Express lane. So I would assume this card is going to have about a 200 watt TDP, which is decent, so nothing crazy. I would say we're probably going to expect around a $400 US price point, which I still think is too much for it. I think it should be like $350, maybe $300, especially when it comes to like the 60 series cards. Like that's your true mid-range, and I feel like they should meet that $300 price point. They're probably going to come out with a 3050, or if they're going to do the GTX like non-RT cards again and create a whole gargantuan mess at the mid-range. I don't know. We'll see. Like that's where things kind of get a little gray. Its expected launch date's December 2nd, so that'll be interesting. So hopefully review units and more information will come within the coming weeks. Projected performance should be around a RTX 2080 or 2080 Super. So that would be really interesting, because you're getting, you know, $400 card that had high-end performance just a couple months ago. So that would be interesting, because that's like a really good value for anyone that you know, maybe has an older video card, let's say an RX 570 or a 1050 Ti or you know, a 1060, and they're looking to upgrade. This would be a solid upgrade for you. And like even still, a 1060 is a fantastic card if you got a 3 gig or the 6 gig version. So I don't know. I'm really interested to see this. It looks like a decent card. It doesn't look massive like what happened to the 3070. All the 3070s are huge and godly. It just like they're way too big. And I think this is definitely the sweet spot. So yeah, definitely looking forward to more, and we'll let you know as I find more information. So Sapphire, being one of the partners from AMD that solely makes AMD video cards. And they've been around forever, going back all the way to the ATI days, making awesome, crazy custom coolers. and still to this day even making really nice coolers. So they've been doing a fantastic job over the years. And now with the launch of the new RX 6800 series cards, they are working yet again and teased a picture of their new card. So they showed on their Twitter and their Facebook just a slice of the top of the card, really showing nothing besides it's a triple axle fan, which pretty much was going to expect as the reference card has that. And that's really about it. But I'm really excited to see that they're going to have a custom PCB. Now, there was some other rumors I've read throughout the week, and I can't find the original source where I read it. But apparently, AMD is in talks with partners of letting them release their own non-reference versions of the 6900 XT. So that'll be really, really good, because that was the one biggest downfall, I would say, of the Radeon 7. Well, there was a lot of downfalls to the Radeon 7, but price, shitty drivers, terrible cooler. It looked awesome, but it was just absolute shit. And it didn't last for long until it went out of production. But there was no third-party versions of it. So I think that card would have really benefited from better coolers or triple slot coolers, because it just ran way too loud, ran way too hot, even with a triple axle fan design. It just was not made well. It looked beautiful, and I would love to own one just for literally having it as like something to sit on this wall just to look cool. Along with, there's a few other Nvidia cards that I want to own that just look cool, and I would love to stick on this wall. So I think in future we'll probably build a shelf of cool video cards that have came out over the years. But I'm really excited to see what Sapphire is going to do, and hopefully XFX will show something, because those are like the two that solely make AMD video cards. You know, you're going to have your Gigabyte making cards, you're going to have MSI making cards, and you're going to have also Asus making cards, but all they're going to be is the same cooler we've seen on Nvidia, just on AMD cards, which is nothing wrong with that, because we know those coolers work. But these cards are going to be unique to AMD only. So if you want that unique look to really show off, hey, I have a 6800 XT, and you want to show it off, well, those guys are the kind of the guys to go to, because if you have a Strix cooler, everyone's just going to go, oh, cool, you have a Asus Strix. Well, which one is it? Because it could be a 3070, a 3080, a 3090, a 6800, a 6800 XT, because they all look the same. Thank you, everyone. This is for wrapping up this week's show. And if you did enjoy it, please remember to leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell as well, just so you know when I release new content and post things on the community page. It's just everyone that has commented on videos and thumbs up that it really means a lot to me, and it helps push me forward to keep motivated and producing new content every week for you. Eventually, I will start getting into doing reviews. I'm just want to get the channel going and really kind of let YouTube, basically by making weekly content, showing to YouTube, it's like, hey, this channel's no longer dead, it's no longer dormant. I think we'll start getting more traffic to it. So those will come, but one of the first projects I want to start working on is updating my water cooling loop. So I built this last year, and there's nothing wrong with it at all, but it's time for maintenance as it's about a year old. So I'm going to do a drain, I'm going to break down all the blocks. So I'll shoot some shorts about that, breaking down the blocks, cleaning the blocks quickly. And so that'll be the GPU and the CPU. I won't show like full dismantle because it does take time to do that, so I'll probably time lapse that, but I'm gonna have to bend some new pipe because I want to change how the loop is ran, so that'll be interesting, and I'll kind of walk you through my thinking of it, but a lot of it's just like it's just the feel of doing it. So I got all the components. I've just bought 3 meters of PETG. I bought 2 liters of coolant, so my mods pre-mix clear coolant. I really stick away from the colored fluids. I've had not the best luck with it in the past. So it's just easier from a maintenance standpoint to have just clear, non-colored, nothing. That's just what I prefer. So just a lot less headaches. So that's what's going to be coming up with my system. And then at that time, you'll get to see a little bit more in depth. Literally the last piece I'm waiting for is I have my fittings. I have all my fittings. I'm adding a second drain to the system. I'm changing how the tubes are ran to the CPU and back to the second between the 2 radiators. And then the only thing I need is fans. So my options are Noctua NFF A12s, which I spoke about last week, but they are still not in stock. Or, which I noticed is in stock and performs very similarly from the research I've done, is the Thermaltake Tough Fan. Tough 12s, I think they're called. I'll put a picture of it. They're about $37 locally, so it's going to be over $100 just in 3 fans. And they look very similar to the A12s. It's just they're black, which is kind of nice because they'll go with the current styling right now. I do have Noctua NFF 12s in the side radiator that you don't see. But I'm curious to trying these, or do I, there's a more value option that I can go with, and they perform very well, which are the Arctic cooling ones, which come in a value pack of 5, and they're only $64, so they're not that expensive. So I'm on the fence, but let me hear what you guys think. Should I wait for the Noctuas? Should I try the Thermaltake fans, because they're new as of this year, and they look very similar, and from what I've read, and there's very little information out on them. So I'm kind of willing to take the risk, but the problem is I'm taking a risk and I'm sticking them in a location in my PC that I will have to dismantle the whole PC, basically, the whole water loop, to change them out if they're crap. So that's my biggest worry. I know the Noctua will work no matter what, all the time. It's just, I want something now because those fans, the Gentle Typhoons, are annoying me because they make a rattle at low speed. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Let me know down in the comments what you think I should do with that. As well as, did you get your hands on a Ryzen 5000 CPU? I was this close to pulling a trigger on one because I'm helping my sister with building her new PC with that motherboard right there. We're going to do a 5600X, so that will be on the channel shortly. So guys, once I get my hands on that, you'll see that with the case that's just below me and the whole build. So stick around.